I don't know why you're laughing, George. You've offended the worst tonight.
No.
With your racially insensitive.
We had to call the country of India and apologize.
You actually had to call the country of India.
No, we didn't, but we did have to start commentary on Round 7 feature match from the 2014 West Virginia State Championship.
Okay.
We've reached the point of the tournament where our undefeated players are double drawing in. Alec Myers and Riley Ovison, both on 6 wins, no losses, are double drawing in. So that means we're into our X and 1 bracket. On the left is Carter Newman from Hometown Hobbies, piloting a red-green Monsters deck, and he was kind enough to tell me that he's not playing any copies of Xenagos the God.
Okay.
So he's all creatures and planeswalkers, and his opponent is Michael Reynolds from Blue White Control, apparently, from Four Horsemen in Morgantown, and he is playing Blue White Control.
That's pretty much the store's name, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of them playing that today. But Michael down on a mold of 6 here. So we see Carter running out Domri, which is going to meet a D-Sphere. But now we've entered the Stormbreath Dragon portion of the game.
Yeah, Carter kept a hand with no 1-2-3 drop on curve, and then must have drawn this Domri last turn. So his hand must have been all high-end spells, as we see a Gorklane Rampager come down, which is a very hard card for the blue-white decks to deal with.
As soon as you say that, D-Sphere on that guy.
Well, he only has 4 of them.
Yeah.
Even if he shuffles his entire graveyard back with Elixir, he doesn't get his detention spheres back.
And the way that he's been rattling off these detention spheres as soon as possible, indicating that he's not on a Supreme Verdict draw.
Yep.
So.
Well, here's a card that doesn't match up with detention sphere, so it's a good reason to get him out of your hands.
Absolutely. If you have 2 detention spheres in hand, you feel pretty good about your situation up until your opponent plays
Elspeth and -3 Zed.
Yeah, that'll also do it, but the Elspeth is going to die to a Mutavault attack. But I think you're fine trading your Elspeth for one of the most difficult cards in your most difficult cards for your deck to match up with.
Yep, and there's another Gorklane, which I assume that he had, since it really looks like he's just looking for an early threat. There's another Elspeth, so Michael obviously not on the
win with Elspeth plan.
not on the one Elspeth, one Elixir plan. He's probably got 2 to 3 Elspeths if he's playing any number of multiples.
We've only played like 3 cards in this whole game: Elspeth, Gorklane Rampagers, and Detention Spheres. And enough mana to follow it up with a Jace, going immediately to the mini-factor fiction, revealing Plains, Supreme Verdict, and...
That was a Hollowed Fountain or Skylands.
I think it was the Blue-White Temple, but we take the Verdict. But we're still going to be able to kill Jace here, with Michael completely tapped out.
Yeah, this Mutavault racked up 3 Planeswalker kills so far. It's going to go back to all of its other Mutavault buddies and be like, hey.
Check this out. Aren't you the one who always says, as the blue-white pilot, your Mutavaults never attack, but they are good for killing Planeswalkers?
Yes.
They're even better when when your opponent's trying to kill off your creatures and you just happen to have those.
There is a Kranos.
I mean, Carter's draw has just been... You talk about a deck that Kiora matches up well against. This deck is just one giant fatty after another, one at a time. But against this particular draw from Michael, it looks like he might have to spend a Supreme Verdict to deal with this Polukranos.
Well, this is fine. Like, Carter's actually very fortunate here that he hasn't drawn his cards like Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Carriage at this point in the game. He's drawn more big threats, and of course he has these Mutavaults to back it up with. But if you're in Michael's seat, like, you're fine to trade Supreme Verdict there, because eventually
he's going to run out of gas.
He's going to start drawing Elvish Mystics, lands, and Sylvan Carriages.
And at this point, there's certainly not going to be, as we see a mini-factor fiction revealing, Dissolve.
That's the card that's getting taken.
Yeah.
Nope, 2 lands.
I think it was 2 lands. Or it could have been a Last Breath, I think. It couldn't have been Last Breath because he would have separated that out,
Yeah, if he's on the double Mutavault plane, Last Breath is the last card he wants.
But at some point, Michael's running out of win conditions. Like, very quickly, he's going to be on the Elixir of Immortality plan.
Which is fine. Like if you're on that plan, you're usually casting Revelations for double digits.
Sure.
So.
Carter is drawing a lot of lands here, and we're also likely on a we're going to get Azorius Charmed here at some point.
Yeah.
Or Last Breath, depending on what he has in his main. No, I stand corrected. He's down to 8. But of course, this can be one of those things where down to 10 as we choose to also pick off the Jace, which it seems obvious. I just neglected that. But
So 4 kills now.
It's interesting that he would do that. Would you think about possibly attacking with both Mutavaults in case there's a Last Breath or Azorius Charm, just to ensure that Jace dies?
Yeah. Yeah, that's possible. I
mean, the game is such that it's going to be won by such a thin margin that you may want to...
It also doesn't change the clock any if you do that. Like, if you just double attack Jace, he's at 12, and the clock is still the same if he's at 10.
Right. But it is a point where the game is probably going to be won by 1 or 2 damage, and it's at least a debatable point at this point. If we were starting life totals of 20 each, then obviously it's a lot easier.
Now for Michael here, you have to expect, because Carter has enough mana to activate both Mutavaults, attack, and play a Gore-Clan Rampager, that a Gore-Clan Rampager is probably not in the works for Carter. And there's the Dissolve that we didn't know about. We actually put a Dissolve on the bottom, so...
and Carter's shocking himself to play the last, or probably Pelucranos at this point, I would think.
Well, no, we're just going to jam in with the 2 Mutavaults here.
Oh, good point.
So Michael has to think that that Carter has no Gore-Clan Rampagers, as he would just play them out and attack with both the Mutavaults. So we're going to draw a Mutavault, drop it back into play, and hit Michael for 2. And if you're Carter, like, all you're hoping is that Michael never plays a shock land and passes the turn. Like, you're just hoping to dodge this one thing right here, which is a Sphinx's Revelation for 7 or 6.
No, 7. I think you're right. Nope, it's for 6 according to the math.
Yeah, he just has 9 lands. Yeah, that was the nail in the coffin for this game.
There was definitely a window at which Carter could have won, and to be perfectly honest, this game was probably one in which Carter was pretty fortunate to have both Mutavaults to stick around, honestly, because short of those non-wrathable man lands, we would have had active Jace on board, we would have had 2 Elspeths that we had to get rid of.
We do see that Michael has an Elixir deck, so obviously why he was very willy-nilly with his Elspeths earlier, and she's now going to get to... we see a Last Breath, they got a Mutavault. We're now going to get to sack with our entire deck.
Yeah, this is again, like we always talk about, one of those games that is fundamentally over, but Michael still needs to go about the business of actually killing his opponent. Which at this point, having already burned through 2 Elspeths and a couple Jaces, might very well end up being a middle game.
Well, Michael needs another Revelation like that. That was the one that recouped off his losses. He needs a Revelation to actually put this game away, because Carter is a Storm Breath Dragon and a monstrous Storm Breath Dragon away from actually winning this game.
True. Yeah, the monstrosity of the Storm Breath Dragon is going to be pretty...
And if Carter and if Michael had drew several lands in that Revelation, then this is a game that Carter can possibly steal right out from under him. We played a Temple there, so it's unlikely that there's another Revelation coming from Michael.
I see one in his hand, though. Yep.
Yeah.
He's just at the point where he's fine casting it for non-maximum.
Yeah, that one was just for 5.
This is not a good situation for Carter to be in, obviously.
And Carter's going to go ahead and pack him up and move on to game 2. So he had a very slow start there.
Gotcha.
He had a very, very slow start there. His first play was a turn 4 Domri. And
not where you want to be in the blue-white matchup.
Yeah, just allowed Michael too much setup time. Like, we saw Michael trade all of his high value spells just 1 for 1. We got 1 Storm Breath Dragon with our Elspeth -3. We got 1 Gore-Clan Rampager with an Elspeth -3. We got 1 Gore-Clan Rampager with a Supreme Verdict. Like, if the blue-white can do that and still not die, then you obviously had a very slow start.
Well, as these guys move to the sideboard, we do want to thank our Round 7 sponsor, which is AFK Games, which is in Cross Lanes, West Virginia. They have Magic on Sunday at 1 p.m. Their address is 134 Golf Mountain Road in Cross Lanes. So thanks to them. I also know that they support Yu-Gi-Oh!, I think Vanguard, and some of the other collectible card games. So if you're in that area... They're right beside the Pizza Hut in an old doctor's office.
Take 2.
Excuse me.
And this is where you want to be if you are Carter.
Yep, Carter Newman on Red Green Monsters is down a game it was a very competitive game one, but he did stumble a little bit early and generated one of those games where he produced one big threat every turn, and Michael was able to deal with it, eventually finding a Sphinx's Rev and getting the concession. But
did he just keep a one-lander?
He kept a one-lander and just got last breath.
Oh, Carter.
Well,
Sometimes.
there's a meter vault.
With no Carotid. This is not looking good for the hometown hobbies team.
No, it's unfortunate because he doesn't have that game to spare, and absent a Sylvan Caryatid here. Well, and when your opponent feels comfortable enough cycling Azorius Charms.
Yeah, get your Polycraner's deck.
Yeah, he's got a dissolve in his hand too.
There's a Jace.
Is it 3 lands?
3 lands. Yeah.
So give him the Scry land.
We got game more.
Or yeah, so
the blue-white deck.
So unfortunate for Carter here, but he is going to be able to start bashing with his Mutavault, and unless Michael can, actually start putting on some pressure, Carter can put up a reasonable fight once he actually does get lands. He obviously has 7 spells in his hand. So
It's just if you're Carter, I do not know why you would keep that hand.
Well, yeah, there's no way.
it was a land short of a turn 2 Domri start. So
The land also had to be a mountain.
the land did have to be a mountain.
We have all done it. It happens to all of us. But
I lost
unfortunate because
it
it looks like Carter's not going to be able to play a ton of Magic this game. His deck wants to get to 4 and 5. Oh, and this is the death knell when your opponent's not only cycling Azorius Charms for no real value, but when he feels comfortable firing off a Sphinx's Rev for 3, just so he can find a win condition.
And there's the infamous Aetherling.
Yikes. Yeah, he did telegraph that. Well, it's not telegraph, but it's obviously on its way as we play the Shock Land to leave open Blink mana. And this one is all over but the shouting. Is there any way that that Carter can answer? I mean, I assume there's Pithing Needles on the board, but did you bring those in this matchup to name Planeswalkers?
You definitely do. The threats are all activation-based. Elspeth, Aetherling, Jace, Mutavaults even.
But without that, there's no other real card to compete with Aetherling. Even if you add in a card like Mizzy Mourners, which is a card that you take out in this matchup, it obviously doesn't match up well against the 4/5.
And I do get a stick of Xenagos here, which is going to make a Satyr token, and it's not going to be able to block, so you might as well get in there.
Excuse you, Zach. It's a Satyr.
Satyr?
Yeah, Satyr.
Satyr. Let's just all 3 say it at once.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave. So serving in.
So we're going to just go right at the life total. Still 2-turn clock, but not now.
Yeah, that's an interesting line there. Would you not...
if he has a revelation, then there's an argument not to.
Because there's literally no instant speed spell that he could cast.
He also didn't play a land this turn, so he probably has 6 or 7 spells in his hand, so I don't know if...
He has Fated Retribution.
I don't know.
That could be what he's holding up for, Blink and then Retribution.
He
does
have exactly.
I think that's exactly what we're going to see. Are we going to see...
he
this
is
the
playing...
biggest blowout in the history of mankind.
I will activate this Aetherling.
Jeez. It feels so bad.
Scoop him up, Carter. I love you, but
It's I mean, it's hard to win one of these things. We've seen a lot of matches tonight. This is actually very accurate of the 6 rounds we've watched clear before, which are good decks and good players, and the games are not necessarily blowouts, but
very one-sided.
Yes, very one-sided matches. I don't know if we've seen a third game in our entire 7 rounds of coverage. Just a lot of close games, but a lot of games exactly like that, where one player just that one obviously a little bit within the player's control. Keeping the one-lander obviously is a choice that you have to make, and it didn't pay off for Carter, but still an impressive run to get to 5-1.
And a 2-0 victory for blue-white against red-green monsters is very impressive.
Very impressive. Like this is a
1-for-1 with monsters is not where you want to be.
And to be fair, like we talked about, game 1 he stumbled. Not that he stumbled on mana, but he just did not have the business early that he needed.
And then that stock early.
Yep. And then game 2, obviously, keep the one-lander and get your mana dork last breath. Not how you drew it up, but...
Fortunately, we get to see this gorgeous strawberry blonde right here.
Oh, man.